This episode contains sensitive discussions around infertility, postpartum depression, anxiety, rage, and suicidal thoughts. These topics may be triggering or distressing for some listeners. Please take care while watching or listening, and know that you are not alone.
For the haters, come on, do it now or later. Yeah. It don't matter what your name is, share your story. We'll be waiting. For the haters, whoa.
Welcome back, everyone, to For the Hayters. Today, we're having a deeply important conversation about postpartum mental health, the side of motherhood that too many people suffer through in silence. Our guest, Kayla, is bravely sharing her journey through infertility, IVF, postpartum depression, a battle that nearly cost her everything. Kayla spent 5 years fighting to become a mom, enduring losses, IVF treatments, and against all odds, a natural pregnancy. But after delivering her second son prematurely, she found herself in a war that she never expected, one with postpartum depression, anxiety, rage, and even suicidal thoughts. She's here to talk about what it's like to feel like you're drowning in a season that's supposed to be filled with joy, how she found the strength to ask for help, and what she wants every struggling mother to know. If you've ever felt alone in your mental health journey, this episode is for you. Let's get into it. Hello, Kayla.
Hi.
How are we? And welcome to For the Hayters.
Good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And I always like to start out these episodes with allowing my guests to share a little bit about themselves and what their journey led to before we discuss what we're here to talk about. So before pregnancy and before motherhood, can you just give us a little glimpse into your life?
So my husband and I have been together 19 years.
What's your husband's name?
Cameron.
Yeah.
We will be celebrating 8 years married in June. So we were basically high school sweethearts. But I met him through his aunt who played softball with me. And we've just been together ever since.
Softball,
yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And what was life like before that, right? Did you always want to be a mother? Was that something that you guys always discussed?
Yeah. When I was little, I always had like a baby doll or a stuffed animal that was in diapers, and I was the mom feeding it. Right off the bat, we pretty much talked about if we would ever have kids, even though we were so young. Because firstly, we knew it could be difficult because I was diagnosed with PCOS. So if it was something he didn't want to possibly not be a dad, that we would just be like, okay, nice to meet you, bye.
Yeah.
So, we dated, we continued to talk about kids, got engaged, married, all the things. And then it really started to really struggle to try to have kids.
So when were you diagnosed with PCOS?
So I was diagnosed when I was 14 or 15.
Okay. So you knew, right? So you knew that when that time came, that it could be difficult to get pregnant.
Yes. I was one of those that didn't get her period until she was in high school. I was like, something's wrong. Everyone around me has gotten their period and I'm just bopping along like nothing's going on. And then when it finally came, it was horrible. And I knew something was wrong. And, every month I'd get horrible, what I thought was stomach aches. And come to find out it was just cysts growing and rupturing and all the things.
Going through that cycle.
Yeah. And so when I went to see a gynecologist, he was like, holy crap. And he was like, do you see all these circles on your ultrasound? And I was like, okay, what is that? And he's like, well, you have 15 cysts on this side and like I think it was like 20 something on the other.
Wow.
I was like, are those supposed to be there?
That's exactly what went through my mind.
I was like, well, isn't that like good? Aren't those like eggs? And he goes, yes and no.
Yeah.
So I knew that, you know, my dream of being a mom could not like be possible. Like, you know, at a young age, I was like, you know, I could be just the funny aunt, you know.
Do you think that it helped you like mentally just have set better expectations for yourself in the future? Like, you know, you spent so much of your life then knowing that when that time came that you knew it wasn't gonna be just like everyone else.
Yeah. So when I did get diagnosed, you know, they immediately throw birth control pills at you. This will fix it. But essentially it was just putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. Like it was still there, still growing, manifesting itself. And so, you know, when the time did come, I was like, it's going to be hard, but it should be possible. And then when it wasn't happening, I was just like, okay, what is going on?
Yeah. How old were you when you did start trying? And then how long was it before you sought out fertility support?
So I stopped birth control about 2 months before our wedding because I had finished the pack and I didn't want to buy a new one if we were just going to immediately start trying. So we tried for 10 months and we got pregnant and I was like, heck yeah, like
I'm able to do this.
I can do this, man. Yeah. And, but something just felt off. So when I went to get like the blood work, because I didn't know like what all you had to have done, I was like, hey, I'm here. Like I have a baby in my, and my doctor was like really excited. And then when he like was looking at my chart, like, you know, his face started to change. And I was like, uh-oh. And so he's like, I just want to send you for an ultrasound and all the things. And come to find out there was no baby. I had what they called a blighted ovum. And basically the egg's there, but there's nothing like inside of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So and that will show up as a positive on a pregnancy
Because your
test?
body is producing the HCG. So, and that was like Christmas Eve when I got the call.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah. And so the doctor's like, you know, these are your options you can do. But if you do a DNC, you're going to get more scar tissue. I was like, great. So we tried to do like the medicine route. And that caused so much trauma.
And I'm not an expert on this, but what comes to my mind when you say instead of doing it like a DNC increases the likelihood of you not being able to have kids, right? Like that affects your ability to get pregnant, which is why you wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, because they're essentially scraping everything out. And he's like, you know, your chances are already like crappy.
Yeah.
To put it lightly. And he said that, you know, we can do the DNC, get it done and over with, and reconvene and see. And so I was just like, absolutely not. Like, my chances aren't great anyways. But looking back, what I know now, I would have done it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they gave me medicine, like, with instructions. They said it'd be, like, period cramps. Well, they were full of shit. Yeah. You know, I was having contractions at home.
Yeah.
And it took my body 3 whole months.
Wow.
To finally get it all back to normal.
Huh.
Yeah.
And so, like, do they consider it like a miscarriage? Is that
because it implanted?
Yeah. So you like go through the same symptoms and
oh yeah,
release as if you know, were carrying like a viable pregnancy. happen?
Yeah. So we were 10 months, about 10 months of trying. And
I didn't even know that was possible.
me neither.
Like, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah. And of course, like, the doctor's like, you didn't do anything wrong. This just happens. It's rare. And I was like, of course it's freaking rare. Like, just
Yeah.
add it to my resume,
Yeah.
you know? And he was just like, I'm so sorry. And he's like, I know it's Christmas Eve, but I didn't want you to have to wait for a couple more days
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah, that roller coaster of emotions must have just been so much to kind of mentally go through as well, because coming from someone who didn't have expectations of being able to get pregnant and thinking that you were able to get pregnant and actually, like, you know, the realization that you actually weren't, it must have just been like crushing, you know, like so many highs and lows within a short period.
Yeah. And when, you know, everyone says wait the 12 weeks till you're safe. Well, realistically, there's no safe point. There really isn't. And so we were excited. So of course we were telling
People.
like our close family, and then having to turn around.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not making those phone calls. I can't.
Yeah. It's like a double-edged sword, right? Like, I've spoken about this just with our experience. People knew the day we knew, because it's impossible to hide when you're going through IVF because everyone knows you're going through IVF. But someone once just told me that, and it will always stick with me now, but that, you know, losing what you thought to be a child is one of the hardest things that you'll ever go through. And why wouldn't you want those people around you to support you through it? And so they get the highs and lows with you, and you're not going through it alone. So people just talk about like the 12-week, and I'm like, fuck it. Yeah. But again, the other side of it is having to have those really hard, just like conversations, because then that leads to questions, and more people know. So it's like, you feel like you have to talk about it. So just finding that balance.
Yeah. And the balance was really hard because, you know, our generation's more open about the struggles and things. But then when it comes to like our parents, if it's an awkward conversation, they don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like, you know, my mom was with me when we like got the news. So she went ahead and made the tough stuff for our side of the family. Like let my grandma know, and my then stepdad know. And so she did the hard part for me, and I made Cameron do his side. It's like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. And so how long after was it that you decided to seek out fertility treatment?
So it was probably that following summer. It was a couple months, because it was just such a long process that I actually like started having symptoms of postpartum after our loss, which I didn't know was a thing. What I know now would it be postpartum.
Yeah, and that wasn't something you recognized then?
No. I just thought I was just raging at everybody. Like, just everyone was irritating me.
Yeah.
It was probably 4 or 5 months. I was like, okay, this isn't working. Let me reach out and find, you know, a doctor that could potentially help. And then Cameron's aunt went to this doctor, and she introduced me to Dr. Stroud's office. They were focusing on fertility. So I was like, you know, we'll do all the testing there. And he was the one that found, when I had like my 3rd or 4th laparoscopy, that I was ridden with endometriosis as well. And he's like, oh, well, here's a big problem.
Yeah. Another strike to the resume.
Yeah. I was like, cool. But every girl in my family has endometriosis. They say it's not genetically passed down, but the math's not mathing on that one.
Yeah.
So, you know, we tried all the things. Their belief system in that practice is not to do like IVF and IUI. The religion bases, track your cycles. You could do the letrozole or like the Clomid to help with making eggs. And I was on that for 2 years straight, every month, taking this med that's supposed to help.
Wow.
And they're like, just keep trying, but come to find out, you're only supposed to be on that maybe max 6 cycles. And I was doing it for 2 years. But he also found that I don't produce enough progesterone, which is, as you know,
Yeah.
you need it to sustain a pregnancy.
Which always blow me. Leah talk about it all the time. It's like, why don't they offer progesterone to anyone that is pregnant? Like, why aren't they like to help?
Right. And you can't overdose on progesterone.
Yeah.
Like, it does not negate to really any negative effects. Of course, men in medicine will say it doesn't correlate. Low progesterone does not correlate to miscarriages.
Then why do they just shove progesterone down for IVF people? Like to sick. Like,
Yep.
That's yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, before I started supplementing, I was barely on the charts with progesterone.
Interesting.
Like, if they didn't have the lower spectrum, I wouldn't have been on the chart.
So, was it after 2 years that you switched clinics? Like, did you go and go find someone else?
I was actually getting frustrated because I was like,
I mean, rightfully so.
I was like, I'm almost turning 30, and the thought process is like, when you turn 30, when you have PCOS, like, it will make or break you. And I told Cameron one night, and I was like, we need to do a Hail Mary. Like, this is obviously not working. Like, it's tearing us apart.
Can I ask a personal question?
Yeah.
Why'd you look at me like that? Was the decision to stick that long for 2 years, like, was it also like your religion that made you? Okay. It was just like the religion of the practice, like, or like the thoughts and feelings of that, like.
So the doctor, it's actually his personal practice. He's the first standalone fertility clinic that also does, now does, like, not home births, but
Natural births?
that, but you can, like,
births?
a birth center is what I'm trying to think of. Yeah. But I originally went to him, and of course, he's busy. And then I got switched to a different doctor. And I don't know if I'm just one that doesn't vibe well with some people. I mean, probably, like, I'm probably the problem. Add it to my list. Like, that's fine. But it just didn't fit when I was, like, crying in her office saying, like, we've been doing this so long, it's not working, like, it's making me depressed, like, I am not okay. And she tells me, just pray some more and try some essential oils. Which I was like, well, what do you think? I've been praying to have a healthy, like, how much more?
Yeah, like how much
And
more
so
can
I
you
just,
want something?
we left that appointment, and I just looked at my husband, and I was like, I can't do this. I cannot keep doing this. Like, you're tracking cycles. And it wasn't like, when you're trying to conceive, they're like, oh, you're having all this amazing sex and stuff, blah, blah. I was like, it was transactional.
Yeah.
Like, I was tracking ovulation, all that thing. And I'd be like, send him a picture, be like, hey, it's positive. And he's like, great.
Yeah.
Like,
it takes the fun. I mean, I don't know personally because that's not obviously how babies are created on this side. But I have a lot of people that do create babies like that.
Yeah.
And it is a very common theme in conversation of just like how it takes the enjoyment out of things. And it just eventually, it becomes like a job that you're just tracking that. And it's
all consuming. Like, it's not romantic at all. It's not connecting at all. You're just like, all right, let's get this rolling. We got like a deposit to do, essentially.
Yeah.
And so I started looking, you know, what other things. And I've had a few friends that have done IVF, and they recommended their clinic. And so I reached out, and I was like, this is our Hail Mary. It's either this or we're not doing it. Like, I cannot
Keep doing this to ourselves.
Yeah. And so then that's when I met Dr. Matt Willab, Midwest Fertility. And he was great. His wife did IVF, and she's also a doctor at the practice.
Wow.
So he knows personally, like, that this is literally our Hail Mary. And I was like, just be blunt with me. Like, don't beat around the bush. Like, is this going to be an option or not?
Yeah. And how'd that conversation go?
It went really well. You know, you pay $300, $400 for a consult. So,
I know that all very well.
yeah. And it was not one of those just 15-minute consults. It was an hour and something virtually. And he's like, you know, we're going to do tests. I'm going to look at all your medical charts, like literally send everything. And then we can go from there. And he's like, I'll tell you if it's going to be worth it or not to either do IUI or IVF. So he did. He spent hours looking
Through everything.
like things that doctors blatantly missed or dismissed.
Yeah. And so what was his decision? Did you do IUI?
No. So with the blighted ovum, that told him that the egg and the sperm are not fertilizing correctly. One's getting cut off
From the other.
Yeah.
And for those listening that might not know the difference, I forget that people have zero,
Yeah.
like, which is fair. Like,
Yeah.
why would someone know unless they
Yeah.
needed to know? IUI is insemination, like
Right.
right inside. IVF is when they take both out and fertilize outside of the body.
Yeah. And to be fair, we did try at home
IUI.
IUI.
Yeah.
We used like Mosey Baby. I think it was what it was called.
Yeah.
I was like, let's try it.
And some people do try at home.
yeah, and it works.
And it works.
Yeah. No, it didn't work for us.
Doesn't really surprise me, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, you just need a little extra more help than
Yeah.
the sperm being able to find their way.
Yeah. And I was like, you know, okay, well, at least we can be like, this didn't work. And Dr. Matt was like, you know, that's going to be a waste of money, to put it bluntly. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's not going to work.
Which this is going to piss me off because not for you, just
Yeah.
in general. IUI is like a 10% success rate, right?
Right.
Like it's a very low success rate for even people that like healthily could
Yeah.
do it. But a lot of the time to reach for insurance purposes, you have to try IUI before you get approved for IVF.
Right.
And so like a lot of the time you'll hear people doing that and going through 6 failed IUI cycles because it's requirement from, insurance companies because it's a cheaper like a process than
Right.
IVF is. But it is, excuse my language, but so fucked that
Yeah.
like people are forced to do IUI first just because like what an emotional roller coaster it is going through that when we know it's a 10% success rate.
Right. And he was like, to put it mildly, you'd be lucky. Like, my percentage of getting pregnant, quote, naturally was less than 5% my lifetime.
Yeah.
Not each cycle,
Yeah.
my lifetime. And so the insurance like was not going to cover anything. So, they email you that lovely cost sheet, and
Here are
you
the
know,
choices. Yeah.
this is the low end, this is the high end. And after you're done getting your jaw off the floor, you're like, how are we going to do this?
Yeah. Like, do you take out a loan? Like,
Yeah.
what do you sell?
I was like,
Is
okay,
it
so
worth
who
it?
needs an organ? Like, and there's requirements for labs and all the things that would technically traditionally be covered by insurance. But once they find out it's for fertility based, it's denied.
Yeah.
So when we got that sheet, we were like, we'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. the lovely joys of fertility.
Yeah. And so we figured it out, and we did one full round, and that ended with 5 male embryos.
How many eggs did you get out of your retrieval?
14.
14.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And which resulted in 4 embryos, for like 4 healthy embryos.
5.
5, sorry.
Yeah. And they're all boys. So we went ahead and did the PGD testing, the genetic testing, because I said, we're going to go in debt. We're going to go in debt with a bang.
Genetic testing, for anyone wondering, is an extra couple $1,000s. So you can choose not to, like,
Yes.
Lee and I didn't do genetic testing, not because of the money, just because I only had 1 embryo,
Right.
so it didn't matter. Like, we were just, like, in shock and didn't know what to do, and we were just like, okay,
Right.
just put it in. Like,
Yeah.
But genetic testing is a couple $1,000s.
Right. And not every embryo can be genetic tested,
Yeah.
because if there's not enough what I call cushion around it, they would damage the embryo. So we froze 4 and we implanted 1, because their practice, I'm assuming it's their practice and not like a all around.
Nationwide.
Yeah, is if it's PGT tested, you can only implant 1.
It's different everywhere.
Yeah.
It's an interesting also conversation of, is it unethical to implant more than 1? So, like, that's a whole other side of.
And originally, we weren't going to tell anyone we were doing IVF, just my mom.
Yeah.
In the event something happened, like I had a medical emergency, or because everything was stacked against us.
Yeah.
But then, you had to stick to a regimen of getting the shots and everything at a specific time. And if you miss it by 5 minutes, you just blew $30,000.
Yeah. I can't, like, I mean, we talked about this before. If you've never been through IVF, you don't understand, like, the frustrations and, like, the annoyance of the time. Like, I accidentally took a medicine at the wrong time, and I like, lost it. I thought, like, I ruined and it could have, because I obviously didn't get pregnant from it, but, like, it was for the retrieval base, and maybe that's what, and so you just blame yourself if you don't. You have to take it at the same time every day, twice a day.
Yeah, like the alarms on my phone that I had, like, it'd be going off middle of the night. I'm like, yeah, my bad, sorry.
Yeah. You can't, like, make plans. Like, it's
No.
just, yeah.
And, I mean, people do, and they can do their shots anywhere, but I was like, knowing my luck, I'd get an infection from a shot.
Yeah, good on you if you were able to do it. But Lee and I just, like, stopped our lives because, like, the stress of, like,
and then the side effects alone on that.
Yeah.
Like, if you looked at me wrong, I was going to make sure I hurt your feelings, and, like, you would go home crying. Like, that's how it was when I was on letrozole, when I was working, that the guys that I work with, they were like, they could tell when I was taking the medicine when I wasn't. But I had to stop working to do IVF.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had worked in HVAC, which is like heating and cooling, so it can be stressful. And the doctor's like, you're gonna have to make a choice, because your labs are showing you're in extreme stress. And my husband's like, you know what? Like, we're done. Like,
fuck it.
Yeah, fuck it. Like, if it doesn't work, you'll get another job.
Yeah.
If it does work, you're gonna be a stay-at-home mom.
So through IVF, only your mom knew.
Well, initially, yeah, my mom was the only one that knew, and my best friend, that we were pulling the trigger. And then some questions came about, like, how's it going? And, Kayla doesn't seem like herself. And then I was like, you know what? screw it. And so I started documenting. Like, we were vague about certain things. Because I had things like donated. Like, I have a picture of me like organizing everything on the floor that I was reaching out for people. But then I was like, really, why am I being quiet about this?
Yeah.
Like,
I can understand both sides. I'm someone that lets people into my entire life,
Yeah.
and I see the importance of it. I mean, this platform is built
Right.
off, opening that door into someone else's world. So, or do you feel like do you feel happy that you made that choice of being more open about it?
yes and no, because our community is faith-based on a certain faith that we were playing God.
Yeah.
And I always said, make it make sense to me.
Yeah.
God created these doctors to be embryologists and things, so why can't I do this?
Yeah.
So when we were doing like the medicines and stuff, then to come find out like I was allergic to one of the medicines, but there was no alternative for it. So I was just itching away.
Just powering through it.
Yeah, so we did that. We went down to Indianapolis in a blizzard and ice storm. What should be a 3-hour drive was nearly 5. Made it safely. And then the next morning, we did the retrieval. Took that nice little quick nap.
Yeah. You do get put under for retrievals.
Yeah. And, they tell you the numbers, but like I didn't remember.
Yeah. And you have no clue what to compare it to because no one like prepares you for that answer either.
Yeah.
Right? Like I could have been told I had 100 eggs and I like that would have been normal because no one prepares you for expectations, which I've obviously
like they'll explain like, you can start it with this number, then it, reduces by this percent and reduces. And I was like, okay, like math
is not mathing right now.
Yeah. Like I'm horrible at math, so I'm not the one to talk to.
Yeah.
But it really did feel like it was almost transactional. Like they're like,
For sure.
come in, change your next. This person come in, change your next. Like just boom, boom, boom. And then we had they knew ahead of time we were going to do PGT, so they knew we were going to freeze and all the things. And then you just wait.
Yeah.
And check your phone to make sure it's still working. I was driving home with my mom, and the embryologist called. And they're trained not to have any emotion in their voice. So when she called, she was like, hey, I'm here to give you your number for day 5. And she's like, none of them have made it to, blessed, which will then be an embryo. And I was like, what? And she goes, but it's okay because they're still growing. I was like, could you just start with that first off?
Yeah, like what
like,
the fuck?
and then like the long pause, and like my mom's looking at me. She's like, we need to pull over. And she's like, you have 5 that are still growing, so we'll call you tomorrow with your results. I was like, okay, cool. And then they called the following day and told us we had 5.
That made it through.
Yeah. They graded amazingly. We also did assisted hatching, which like they help with basically getting it out of getting the sperm and everything into where it needed to be and all that. So I was like, we're going to just pay for it. Like, might as well. So we were excited. We had 5.
Which is great.
Yeah. But then there was also the off chance that they could get damaged during testing.
Yeah, damage during testing, don't make it through freezing, don't make it through thawing. There's a lot of other...
Yeah. Which I didn't even like think about the unfreezing part because I got the call that morning when we were doing our transfer. Like, hey, like your embryo thawed great. Like we're set to go. And I'm just thinking, well, yeah, duh. And then I was like, oh, like shit.
Like,
I
it
didn't
could
even
have not.
Yeah. And so we were in and out like 10 minutes.
Yeah, the transfer is easy.
Yeah.
The transfer,
I mean, you got
yeah.
like 6 people in the room with you, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have to drink a lot of water? Is that like everywhere? Like you have to fill your bladder to be able to see?
I don't remember.
Yeah. It was like uncomfortable because we were just so bloated of
Yeah.
water.
Probably. I was just so like, oh my gosh, like,
That's it.
yeah.
Did you eat French fries after?
Yes. So there's a superstition that after you do a transfer to go get a large McDonald's fry, something about their grease helps the baby stick, supposedly.
Yeah.
Like I did all the IVF superstitions, like the pineapple socks and
Everything.
like just all the things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it worked.
Which is incredible, right?
Yeah.
Like through everything that you had been through and through the entire process, it's not, IVF is not 100%.
No. And that's one thing. They're like, you're taking the easy route. And I literally choked on water when someone said that to me. And I was like, okay, so
would've
the
throat punched
medicine, well, I figured I shouldn't go to jail when I'm on all those meds.
Yeah, I guess.
But I was like, how is this easy? You know, and like they knew my history
Yeah.
anyways. But even for someone who just has to do it to have children, you know, it's not easy. And if you say it's easy, then
Or cheap.
yeah, yeah, you just don't do IVF just to do it.
Yeah. And so how and when, I know that this conversation is supposed to be more about after,
Yeah.
but I haven't had a conversation with someone about IVF, so
Yeah.
obviously we're going to kind of get stuck on this. When what was that like when you found out, when you got that call? Is it, 10 days? And second question, did you do any at-home tests?
Okay, so if you do a fresh transfer, you are not to test at home because you have the trigger shot still in your body.
Yeah.
They don't disclose that to people.
No.
And so now I tell people like who do fresh transfers, like, don't test because
Which you'll do anyway.
right,
Everyone
you
does
can't
it.
help
You
it.
just hurt
like,
your own feelings.
I mean, the amount of money that we spent on pregnancy test and ovulation test, I could buy like a brand new car.
Yeah.
I had my husband put all my pregnancy tests on a high shelf where I couldn't reach it. And he was at work one day and I was like, so I went and got the step stool, got it down. I was 4 days post-transfer.
Okay.
And I was like, took the test and I was like, I must have lying eyes. There's no way that this is coming up already. And
It did?
it was there and it was slowly getting darker. And then I actually got a positive digital 2 days later.
Wow. We had negative until 2 days after we were told. Yes, from the blood test.
Yeah.
So it showed negative even beyond us knowing, which is crazy.
Yeah, because if it registers too much HCG, it's like a counter.
Yeah,
exit.
Leah's numbers were really low anyway. But my advice to anyone listening is not to do the at-home test. It will hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
a
Well,
lot.
I mean, I've been let down
Before you're supposed
so
to.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before. I kind of wanted to know before I walked in because I knew I was going to that appointment alone.
Oh, okay.
So, they do the blood draw. Well, first they did the urine just to see. And if that was positive, they'd draw more blood.
Yeah.
So I knew I was going by myself.
Oh, they didn't do urine for us.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then I had the 45-minute drive home.
Yeah.
But I already knew walking in that it was positive. But I've had a positive before.
Yeah.
So I think the most nerve-wracking was not the positive. It was the first ultrasound. Like I couldn't even look at the screen. I had to have my mom come with me.
How many weeks were you at the first ultrasound?
I think it was like 5.5, 6.
Okay. Yeah, just for people listening, is when you do IVF, you go, I know like in natural pregnancy, you can't go until 8 weeks, I think. In IVF, there's like a requirement for 5.
Yeah, because you're,
It's like 5.5 or 6 weeks.
yeah, because you're, I guess, more pregnant. Like you skip, because you're pregnant week 1, like your period.
Yeah.
So that's how
Like
they're-
when they implant, you're already 4 weeks too, or like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
or 3,
depending
or
on
something.
your-
I
yeah.
forget. It's all,
Yeah.
Math is
IVF
mathing.
math. Yeah. And I was like, of course.
yeah.
So, I mean, I didn't look at the screen. I actually like plugged my ears
Wow.
because I was like, I don't want to hear, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And they couldn't even be the ones to tell me. But I could hear the heartbeat, even plugging my ears, because that's how loud it was.
Wow.
And she's like, you can look. And he's just like swimming everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Just in there.
like,
Wow.
oh my gosh, like we did it.
There's a baby.
There's a baby in
Yeah.
there, and there's just one.
Yeah.
Because I was sick. And I was like, this is like more than morning sickness. Like I'm sick.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's just one, right? And they're like, yeah, just one. Because, you know, an embryo can split. You have that chance. So we could have had multiples
Yeah.
anyways.
So what does that like the rest of that pregnancy look like for you? Does it, you know, nerves all the way
Yeah.
through?
Anytime you go to the bathroom, you're scared to see what's on that toilet paper.
Leah said the same exact thing.
Or you feel something different. Or you're more sick one day than the other. Just all the things. But then also being plus size, you can feel the baby later. Then I think I was 25 weeks when I first
Oh wow.
felt the flutters.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell is that? And,
Yeah.
you know, and
And that's hard too, right? The expectation of like someone at like, you know, say 20 weeks and they're like, oh, what, like you can feel, and you're like, why am I not feeling anything
yeah,
yet? Is
and
that
it depends
okay?
on, you know, your location of your uterus too.
Yeah.
And like just so many factors.
And where your
but-
placenta is sitting as well.
Yeah, like it's just, you know, nothing's ever simple
Yeah.
if you're a girl. It just isn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was terrified, you know, the entire time
Yeah.
because I was high risk already.
Mm-hmm.
IVF is usually they automatically label you high risk, at least at the practice
Yeah.
we went to. So, you know, you get the extra testing all the time, and then later you don't get as much, and you're like, well, wait, I was getting ultrasounds all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, you know, you give birth
Yep.
and to a
Boy.
healthy little boy.
Yeah. So I was induced to watch because I was showing signs of preeclampsia. And there was worry about like hemorrhaging and things like that. So I was in labor 3 days.
Wow.
So the things that go in your belly are not meant for plus size women.
Okay.
They are not. So like a traditional belly, like Leah's,
Yeah.
they would just stick it here. It's not reading my contractions here on like your belly button. It
Yeah.
has to go lower. So they're like, you're not really having contractions. I was like, I'm about to throw you across this room because I hurt so bad.
Yeah. Like these are something.
Yeah, there's something going on. And so like I was miserable, got like, you know, epidural, tried everything. And I just told him like, I can't do this anymore. I've been here 3 days, and come to find out he was stuck and there was no way he was going to be able to come out. That if I had actually tried to push, it probably would have broken his neck.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you have an emergency C-section?
I
then?
did.
Okay.
You know, I was up basically 3 days, so I fell asleep on the operating table,
Wow.
even with everything going on. Like my husband looked over and I was snoring.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Like looking back at the photos, because I don't remember it.
Yeah. for sure.
You could tell that I was just exhausted.
Yeah.
But the practice that delivered him does family focus C-sections. So you can opt to have a clear drape and see what's going on. Like, you can't see, like...
Them taking stuff out.
Right.
So they, like, take out the stuff and put it back in?
But they were having a hard time during my C-section, like, I guess, keeping me open to get him out because my muscles were so strong and trying to contract and, like, shooting the stuff off me.
Oh, my God.
But, yeah, Rhett was born happy, healthy. He was, like, 38 weeks, I think he was. 37 weeks. Yeah.
And then after years and years and years of trying, you know, you finally have this perfect little boy. And you're doing great.
Yeah. Well,
baby's doing great.
I had low iron. And it was low when I left the hospital. And come to find out, like, my threshold is lower than a, like, traditional, which actually happens a lot with women.
Yeah.
So I had to go back and get iron infusions because I ended up passing out when I was holding Rhett. But thankfully, I was in bed and my husband was there. But happy, healthy baby. You know, we were getting into the swing of things, and we had discussed, you know, we would wait till he's probably like 18 months to have another.
Because you have 4 embryos left.
Yeah. Like, what are we going to do with them?
Yeah.
And, you know, we were like happy-go-lucky raising Rhett, and then about 4.5 months old, I was like, man, I do not feel good. Like, I don't throw up unless something's seriously wrong.
Yeah.
And I was
Food
like,
poisoning.
yeah. And I was like, let me go see if I have a test. Like, this is a joke. Like, I'm just got the stomach flu.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was blazing positive.
Wow.
And it was 7 days before my expected period.
So what was that like, right? Like, you struggle with infertility for years, then all of a sudden you get a positive pregnancy test naturally.
Yeah. I was like, I actually like tapped the test. I was like, this thing's broken. Like, no. Yeah. And I was like, you know, and I'm looking at Rhett, who's playing in the living room, and I'm just like, oh my God. I'm going to have potentially 2 under 1, depending on due dates and stuff. And so I go out there and show Cameron. I was like, thanks a lot. And like, just, and he's like, he really didn't have a response. He was like, okay, cool. We're going to do it again. I'm like, how are you not panicking?
Or just surprised, right? Like,
right.
I didn't even think this was possible.
Yeah. And he goes, well, they did say I had really good swimmers. And I was just like, okay, like.
And it's pretty common too for a natural pregnancy to happen after IVF.
Yes.
Because your body is just like,
you still have
then.
Remnants of all like
Medicine.
the meds and the hormones and all the things. Because I was also still on progesterone shots because my periods after having Rhett were so bad. So I was trying to calm them down. If I wasn't on it, I don't think I would have had like viable.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, like, you were taking like the ash shots that long.
Yeah. Well, I did progesterone shots for
12 weeks into pregnancy.
Oh no, I had to do it my whole pregnancy.
What?
Yeah. Because I wasn't
Leo
high
has
enough.
nightmares about having to do those, and I had to do them up until I found out I wasn't pregnant. But like,
yeah, I had to do them with Rhett up until 36 weeks.
But this goes back to my thing before of like, why aren't progesterone shots used?
Yeah,
for
or like pills or anything.
Yeah.
Because even though my body was kicking in to produce it, it still just wasn't where the doctor liked it.
Yeah.
Which was fine, you know, and, you know, and then got pregnant.
Pregnant a second time. But things were different.
Yeah.
with Walker.
Walker. Yep.
Yeah.
So I had extreme morning sickness. They shouldn't call it morning sickness, first of all. It's not just in the morning. Like, it doesn't clock out at noon and it's like, you're fine now.
Yeah. It's all the
I was
time.
sick 24/7 until 22 weeks. I was hospitalized because I just could not stop. Which made it hard because, you know, I have a baby at home
Yeah.
and I'm pregnant, throwing up, can hardly get out of bed, all the things.
Yeah.
And then I was 29 weeks and I felt something was off. I was like, these are not Braxton Hicks. Like, these hurt a lot more than what they should. So I just kind of monitored it because I'd gone in a couple times. Nothing was showing up on the monitors. And I was like, okay, something hurts. It's clearly I'm not okay. They sent me home. I was setting up for Rhett's first birthday. And I just kind of felt like I was getting torn in half. And a few weeks go by. I'm sitting in the living room. We're trying to see if Rhett's going to walk. And I told Cameron, I said, I need to go in. Something is wrong. I feel like I'm getting ripped apart, like inside out. This isn't contractions. I was having contractions, and then they started becoming consistent. So I called my mom. I was like, can you just take me? And Cameron's going to stay with Rhett. So we make the drive, 45-minute drive to the hospital, because I didn't want to deliver locally. And they wouldn't deliver me locally because of having to do a repeat C-section. So get there, they're seeing some things, but nothing's really matching. And he was getting ready to, the doctor was like, I'm going to send you home. And I was like, okay, like, thank you for just checking. And then all of a sudden, I like screamed and just started sobbing. So they came back in, but they didn't hear me. They saw something on the monitor. And I was like something feels like it's just clawing in a sense. And he's like, okay, like, I can't send you home. I cannot send you home on a good faith that you're going to be safe. So they're like, we're having a baby today.
And how many weeks are you at this point?
I was 34 weeks, 6 days. Which isn't like horribly early, but it's not really something you want. Because at the hospital, anything under 35 weeks, it's an automatic NICU admission. So they're like, we need to get you in there, like, now. So we're going to go get it ready. We lived an hour away, and we just had a snowstorm. So I called my husband, and it's like, get here. Like, they're going to try to hold off as long as nothing's changing for you to get here. And so, you know, they're like, we got to get you back there. And so we called, and it's like, where are you? And he's like, I'm still like 20 minutes out.
Wow.
So my mom was going to have to go in, and he was going to miss the birth. And so then that, you know, sends you into a spiral like, oh my gosh, like, he's going to miss the birth of his child because I couldn't just hold off.
Yeah.
But come to find out, he did make it. The doctor went to step up to do the incision, and someone's like, he's here. And so he stepped down because once you cut, you can't cut. Yeah. So he made it.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't get pulled over.
I mean,
It'd be a good reason.
Yeah, it would.
But yeah, he basically just threw Rhett at our family friend who's basically like an aunt to me. threw Rhett to Karen and was like, I gotta go. And he's like getting dressed and all the things. And then Walker was born.
Yeah.
He was actually bigger in birth weight than Rhett.
Wow.
They were like, there's no way this is the right date.
Imagine the 4 more extra weeks he would have been if he had time to grow a little more.
Yeah. Well, he was basically tearing me inside out because I'd gotten pregnant so quickly after a C-section and didn't heal all the way.
How big was he?
7 pounds, 6 ounces. And Rhett was like 7'2".
Yeah. So now you have 2.
Yeah.
But this, as we stated in the beginning, this pregnancy was a little bit different for you, and you've been pretty open just about like your postpartum depression. And so for you, having gone through a pregnancy and not really experiencing those types of emotions, at least to the extent, now it's night and day with your second, and it's completely different experience for you. Can you just talk about that a little bit of like how it started, when you recognized like, oh, this isn't going to be the same as last time?
I knew it was going to be different, not just in the sense of, he has to go to the NICU because of his lungs just weren't ready. There was also no time to give the shot that will like make his lungs better. When I was in the hospital room, you can still hear like all the babies, but your baby's not there.
Yeah.
So I struggled with that. And then when we finally got to bring him home, I was like overwhelmed, but I felt like I couldn't console him. He was in the NICU for exactly a week. And so he wasn't used to like being held and all the things all the time. So I didn't feel at first if I was like connecting with him. I was like I trying to figure out what you want. I don't know what you want. And then I was like, this is not how it was with Rhett. And I know you're not supposed to compare, but you do.
Yeah.
And if you say you don't, you're full of shit. And then I had the guilt of my husband was taking care of Rhett while I was taking care of Walker, and I couldn't lift. Right. Well, I'm not supposed to lift Rhett, but then my husband had to go back after we got home for 5 days with him. So it was 2 weeks. And I'm having to lift Rhett. And I was so overwhelmed, lack of sleep. And I was snapping. I was like, this just does not feel right. And when I had said something to like someone on Instagram, I was like, man, like this is not easy. And they were like, well, what'd you expect? Like, and I was like, that's not what I really meant.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel off. And then we had a whole lot of life changes within a very short amount of time. We had Walker, and then we sold our first home. And we moved in with my mom. And then I was having some weird symptoms. And then I was diagnosed with lupus. So I was struggling with that. So I was like, I'm just overwhelmed. Like, quit being a baby, suck it up. But then I started like yelling at everybody, like screaming and just losing my shit left and right. You could breathe wrong and I would want to like physically just demolish you.
Yeah.
I was like, this is not normal.
That rage is just like
yeah. I almost felt like I was on steroids because I was just so mean in a sense. Like, I'd be crying at night because I couldn't get Walker to sleep. He had to sleep with us. I know you're not supposed to co-sleep, but when you're tired, you're going to do what you're going to do. Rhett was somewhat sleeping through the night. My husband was working, and I just didn't feel like myself.
Yeah.
So Walker was a couple months old. It was probably like February. I had just helped feed Rhett. Cameron had Walker. And I was like, I need to leave this house for everybody's safety. Like, I was quiet. It was boiling up. Mm-hmm. But there was nothing really off that day. It was just like the perfect storm.
Yeah.
Like everything just catching up. Mm-hmm. And so I was like I just snapped, and I was like, I need to go for a drive so I don't hurt anyone in this house. Like, I gotta go for a drive. And it was like out of nowhere. So my husband's like, what's going on? And I didn't say anything and left. I went for a drive. I think I went and got like an ice cream cone, driving around up and down the highway, country roads, just like
Going anywhere but home.
yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was, so I was like, I need to go back like home. I've been gone long enough. And I'm tired. But then I had like this urge to floor it and not hit the brakes. So I like put my foot on the gas going towards a busy intersection. And then I was like, what am I doing? Brake. And I did another time. And then it stopped. So that night I went home, went to sleep, didn't say anything at all. And then the next day I had asked about, I think it was on Facebook or Instagram, about, I need help. We worked so hard to have these two. And the fact that I was willing to just not be here because I felt like I was just failing. And, it's always been a struggle. Now it's even more struggle. My friend Carissa reached out and she goes, hey, because it's okay not to be okay. Mm-hmm. No one talks about this. They want you to be the happy, perfect mom, especially for what you've gone through. But here's my therapist. She's amazing. She does hard work fast. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks. And so then she checked in. She sent me like a message the following day. And she was like, have you called for an appointment? I was like, no. And she goes, okay, well, you have 10 minutes to call, essentially.
It's a good friend.
But I've never met her in person. That's the thing. Her life story is just insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, okay, like if this therapist is helping her, she can help me. Mm-hmm. She got me in, and I was going once, twice a week. It's like a half-hour drive, so I had like me time. Mm-hmm. So I made the drive, and I'm about a year and almost 6 months into therapy.
Same person?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it takes such strength, one, to ask for help, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the time we often see that women, like you said, are, supposed to be happy for this gift that is finally given and this life. And everyone says it's hard, or everyone says you'll get through it. But most of the time people overlook that there's sometimes more serious things happening inside of us and our brain, and the chemistry that is happening, and the lack of and build up and removal of, and all of these things combining into one. But it takes so much strength for someone to ask for help, right? And it takes certain kinds of people to make sure that you're seeking out that help too. Do you think, what was her name?
Carissa.
Do you think that she knows like that? Because, what, as I sit here, what's going through my head is like, what would have happened if she didn't do that, right? Like, do you think she knows that impact that she made? like of your life. And
She knows because of the things she's gone through. But she doesn't acknowledge that like she was my saving grace. Yeah. She's like, I was just trying to be there.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's not like things get better overnight, right? Like, it
No.
takes a lot of work, and it's just a lot of acceptance, right? Like, it's accepting that things aren't okay, and like, that's fine. Like, that's not going to be forever, but you are going to have to put in work to build through it and work through it, right?
Yeah. And I was already on like medication for anxiety and depression because I did get a hold of my doctor and I was like, I've struggled with depression, anxiety, especially going through infertility. Like,
Yeah,
I was
of
like,
course, yeah.
I was like, I want to get back on my other stuff, like my regular stuff that was working. And then they added more medicines. And well, now it's a pretty good concoction. But I was still getting flagged as the higher end of like the depression and like someone who's teetering on needing to get a hold for 72 hours.
Which is fine too.
Yeah.
Right. Like that, if that's what it takes for the
Yeah.
safety of yourself and the safety of your children,
Yeah.
like that's not an embarrassing choice to make. Like if it's going to save your life and save the life, like your future
And I was
life.
really good. Well, I thought I was really good. Like looking back at pictures, just putting a smile on. That everything's fine.
Yeah.
Happy-go-lucky. And then part of me also, I was like, how did nobody really see it? I mean, it was now, I think, blatantly obvious. But, everyone knows about postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety. I never heard of postpartum rage.
Yeah.
I thought I was crazy
Yeah.
because it was just such a big urge to just like scream in their faces or like wanting to, throw them down and just all these things that you're like, what is wrong with me?
Yeah.
Like, this is not normal. And then the more I looked into it, it was like, no, it's not normal, but it is normal.
Yeah. Like it happens.
Yeah, just no one wants to talk about it. So when I see people who are postpartum, I'm like, it's not just depression, it's not just anxiety. Like that rage you feel is technically normal because you're considered postpartum up to 2 years after birth. And though I'm obviously much better now, with the therapy and the medication, and the kid's a little older, there are days that creeps in.
For sure.
That, I mean, just the other day, I was getting Walker dressed, and he was doing the alligator roll. Like, you're not putting pants on me. Absolutely not. And I was getting so frustrated, I could visualize throwing him through the window.
Yeah.
I didn't, obviously, but I was like, it's still there.
Yeah.
I mean, he just turned 1, so I'm still within that 2 years. And it's not something that I take lightly. I know it drives people nuts that I'm open about it now. And I'm just like, if I wasn't, then maybe someone wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Because, I almost wasn't.
Yeah. What does that support look like from your husband, right? Like, I think that, like, you're not the only one here, like, as a parent in this new world of being responsible for someone. Does he know what's going on? Do you have that kind of communication? Do you have the support that you need from him? And then, secondarily, is there anything different that if someone's listening as a partner, or for myself, like how can you better support someone that might be going through that?
Yeah. So Cameron could tell something was off, but he also didn't know how to like approach it. Which is fine because, you know, you don't think of those things. After you have a kid, you're just like diapers, wipes, poop, pee, all the things. That's what you're focusing on. But now he knows that like I wasn't sleeping. I was lucky if I was getting 2 hours in like a 3-day span.
Wow.
And that's not consecutive. And he, you know, we now have like a code word that if I'm like, I need a break,
Yeah.
that
has helped.
yeah. And also my best friend, Steph, we basically have like also kind of like a code word, or like we'll simply ask like, do I need to let, you know, your significant other know? And if you say yes or no, either way we're telling them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that takes a lot of strength too, right? Trusting
Yeah.
someone else with your most vulnerable moments. But even, I feel like probably even in that idea alone that you have someone, you feel less alone in this world, just because you know that you have a safety person that you could go to no matter what.
Yeah. And I also like people I don't know in person, that they would reach out and they're like, if I ever send this emoji, just know that, or this word that I'm having a rough day, like just check on me later.
Yeah.
And
But that's a lot of weight to carry too.
it is, in a sense, but it's also kind of easy because I've been there. And so it's hard to find words to admit that, you know, you're struggling. Or like, you know what you want to say, but you can't say it because you also don't want to end up on like a hold. And when you're just going through it, they're like, oh, it's just the phase. That's part of being a parent. And it's like, no, it's a little more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there needs to be some dedicated thought and process to helping this. It's not I'll go to bed and it won't be there tomorrow.
Right.
You know, if there's someone that's listening that is currently in the thick of this, what kind of advice would you give them?
That what you're feeling is valid. Like, it's not supposed to be easy. Parenthood, especially motherhood, like, you completely changed. You're not who you were. There's someone else reliant on you. That if you feel these things, that it's okay to say something. There's other ways you can deal to help make you feel better. It's not just go take a hot shower. That's not a break. Go get groceries. That's not a break. You need to reach out about medication. You know, there are some essential oils that do help other people. There's, like, you know, if you have thoughts of death and suicide, there's hotlines. There's one specific for moms. You know, I mean, you could reach out to me on Instagram. Don't feel like you have to hide it. That's the thing. Is I thought I had to do everything. And I was doing it by myself, and I had to hide that I was not okay.
Yeah.
And that's what made it worse.
Yeah.
The second you feel off, reach out to someone. And that if you, like myself, who had like the postpartum rage so bad, just know that you're not crazy. Like, those urges aren't because you're crazy. It's because your body is trying to get back to a baseline. And it's okay. If you need to go on a hold, go on a hold. It's easier to do it voluntarily than
Someone else
bringing you. But I mean,
if someone wanted to connect with you, what is the best way that someone can get in contact with you?
You can message me on Instagram at Life with the Heckamans, or you can find me on Facebook under Kayla Heckaman.
Amazing. We are unfortunately at time. We've been yapping for a while, which was so easy to do. But I do have one final question for you, and that is, if you could tell your younger self anything, what would it be?
I don't know. It would probably be no is not an answer, or that listen to your gut. When you know something's wrong, whether it's medical, it's mental, it's just listen to your gut and listen to your heart. Because I think if I would have taken that advice, things would have been a lot different, like in our journey all around, including postpartum. So,
well, Kayla, thank you so much for sharing your truth with us today. Your story is a reminder that postpartum struggles are real. IVF struggles are real. They're serious. They deserve to be talked about. You are proof that reaching out for help is not a weakness, it's survival. To anyone listening, if you are struggling with postpartum depression, anxiety, or rage, please know that you are not alone. There's hope, there's help, and your life is worth fighting for. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on For the Hayters.
yay! Round of applause.
For the haters, come on, do it now or later. Yeah. It don't matter what your name is, share your story, we'll be waiting.